I don't want my defense to just be me presenting about 2 skills that I think I did really good in or that I need some work in. I really want it to be me. I want it to include stuff that I really enjoy working on, and I also want it to have a bit of creative element to it, so that way the panel will be awed by like whatever I make.
A defense system and a portfolio defense system is really about measuring what you value, measuring your mission, and then trying to figure out like, okay, what are some standards that are already naturally embedded that you're doing that then allow us to have this very rigorous assessment system, we call it a hoike, that allows us to then take all of these important values and actions and really begin to allow our students to synthesize and then be able to communicate out its importance. One, it does check off that box, right, of those who want to know and have something that they can recognize as an assessment system, but also it becomes a system that really enables our students and holds them accountable for that reflection piece.
I've seen defense of learning used most powerfully in 2 ways. The first way is really practical, and it's to authenticate the learning. I think specifically in an age of AI, defensive learning is an authentic way to do so. Just like in a master's defense or a doctoral defense, a student is asked to extrapolate on what they've written in a thesis. Part of that is to authenticate the learning to that student. The second and more profound reason that we might want to engage in a defense is the metacognitive benefit. When we're asked to reflect on something, that's when true learning happens. That's when the sticky learning happens. And when students are asked to reflect, it's their brains are able to make true meaning of learning and store it in an area that can connect it to other learning, so that learning lives on with them after the assessment.
And I think when it comes to communicating powerfully, I often value it in the sense of spreading awareness. A lot of awareness that we do receive, whether it's social media or like every day, is through art or some sort of expression. Or especially when it comes to democracy and political situations, it's very important to have a good speaking voice as well as a good speaking method to be well received by the audience.
It's a 2-part process. There's the portfolio, which is sort of akin to the resume. It's the written work. It's the, okay, I had to think here's my definition of thinking systemically. Here's a project and the artifact and all the examples and my reflection on why and how I had to think systemically in this project. After they pass the portfolio process, then they prepare a defense, a 10 to 15 minute oral presentation in front of a panel of community members, which include teachers, a 7th grade student, and at least one community member that they don't know at all, that are assessing them on their reflection, the quality of their reflection, the quality of the evidence they provide, and then of course their presentation skills and their portfolio quality as well.
So basically it's a presentation where we go into a room and we set up a presentation or a slideshow about everything we've learned. We stick with 2 sustainability skills that we talk about, and we introduce ourselves, we talk about those for a little, we talk about our journey on how we've improved ourselves at SEEKS, and then the panel, which is like a little thing of judges in the back, they basically watch our presentation, and right after we're done presenting, there's a little time set for a Q&A where they ask us questions so that we can build off of what we've already said.
That's the #1 role that all teachers at SEEKS have, is to plan lessons and projects that students will be able to reflect about and remember in the future.
One of my favorite ones was for the sustainability skill, communicating powerfully. I made a short, around 3-minute Lego stop motion film about anti-discrimination. So it showed a character facing discrimination and trying to change themselves to fit more into the norms that people have created to be like a normal person. And it's not, in my opinion, it's not the best animation I've ever done, although I think it it was my best message that I've ever communicated. I really enjoyed making that, even though it took a really long time.
It's helpful for students always to keep track of the work they've done throughout a year, even if that work is not in the teacher's control. If it is a very set curriculum, students will naturally have assignments that they were more proud of or less proud of, or assignments that they learned a lesson from, of like, ooh, this was a 3-day assignment that I should have planned my time better. So providing even 5 minutes at the end of every class or not even every class, at the end of every week or once in a while, for students to look through all their work and take stock of and keep track of somewhere in a journal or online or somewhere in a consistent place of like, these are some assignments that stood out to me as exciting assignments about that I learned this, or this was an assignment that was hard for me that I grew from. And then at the end of either a unit or a semester or a quarter, giving students a chance to even share with a table partner of like, this is a couple things from my whole journal of stuff I've kept track of. These are a couple things I just want to like say out loud to someone else.
So the student feedback that you get is really nice because you have your opinions, but then you also add other people's ideas into it. And I think that helps build your ideas as well. So when I took the feedback from my peers, I didn't do exactly what they said. So if they're like, change this to this, right? I didn't add that specifically, but I wrote it in my own words. And I think that helps spark creativity, and it helps come up with new ideas for the students to think about.
In general, at SEEKS, we do a lot of peer feedback, and we practice doing, we might call it different things like pluses and deltas. So we talk about how a plus is something that went well, but a delta isn't something that is like bad. It's like, how could you do better? Like, provide the solution. So instead of like, this paragraph sucks, you might say like, it's not clear what you're saying in this paragraph, so maybe give more details about blank, blank, blank. So teachers model that in all our classes. Teachers might do it just at your table out loud, or we might write it every time students watch presentations here at SEEKS. That's a very common thing for teachers to ask students to do while they listen, is to fill out a kind, specific, helpful feedback form while they listen. So students are really used to that process by the time they get to 8th grade. And it's really beautiful. We actually go into their docs sometimes just to see how they're doing. And you can see the comments they've written back to each other, and they're having really like supportive, lovely, encouraging conversations in the comments of the Google Doc. So, but we do sometimes have to model sentence structures. Like, this would be better if, like, I'm confused because, sentence starters are a really common way to scaffold that feedback. The teachers who teach the defense, it's a really big management job, because you have about 25 students all writing 5 reflections each, creating portfolios of those reflections, and then preparing 12 to 15-minute presentations. So it's a lot of encouraging students to help each other and peer edit and peer revise, and helping students to understand what it means to read the rubric and really self-assess for themselves. Am I doing the things that my panel will be looking for? Because it's a very transparent process. We tell them what types of questions we might ask. They have the rubric of what it looks like to succeed or even soar, or to be striving, which is not quite succeeding. Setting up spaces and dynamics and structures for students to be able to use their tools and use each other. And it's a lot of like sitting table to table, okay, who here, noticing common patterns in the class of what students are struggling with, and guiding maybe the whole class through those harder steps of the process.
So today in 8th grade defense, right now we're working on the script, but at the beginning of class, which you may or may not have saw earlier, we're watching a video of an example of someone's 8th grade defense, so we could watch and learn pretty much.
It's the biggest thing any of them have ever done, right? They're preparing a 10 to 15-minute presentation for some people that they don't know at all. And not only is it 10 to 15-minute presentation and this portfolio that they prepared in advance that's actually a public website, right? They're also going to be asked questions that they don't know what they're going to be for 10 to 15 minutes, and they're going to be assessed, right? This is the biggest thing most of these students have ever done. And so they get really worked up about it, and they procrastinate, as everyone does, but they can really reflect on it. Usually the day of the defense, they're like, oh, I waited until the last minute on this. They will talk about how they learned to manage effectively. That's part of the goal in doing this in 8th grade, because wouldn't it be great if everybody learned that when they're 13? instead of when they're in college and cramming or whenever, right? That like, okay, I crammed, I didn't manage my time effectively right now, but next time I do this, I know better how to do it. So the learning comes through being asked to do hard things.
There isn't a right answer. Every single defense that we've passed and that has been a successful one, even ones that we haven't passed because the student can just do a little better, they're so different. Like there isn't one exact answer. If a student is going into it being like, I'm gonna say what they wanna hear, it just doesn't come off as authentic. Students have tried that, and then when we ask them questions, and we know these kids, so not everyone on the panel does, but that's the beauty, is like at least someone on the panel does. We know like you're not being authentic. You're pretending that you are this type of learner when we know you're not, and that's okay. So it's a process of, at least the way I view it, them coming to terms with like who you are as a learner is exactly what we want to hear. We don't want to hear the lie that you know all the answers or that you're the great collaborator. We want to hear the complete truth about where you're at in your learning, because that shows the metacognition. If you're trying to pretend or put on this like false like identity, we see through it because we've seen so many, and we don't want that. We want them to say like, I'm struggling, but here's why, and here's what I know. And yeah, so we want them to be honest about their authentic selves, because we want that metacognition about like, we want to know that you know that either this is a point of growth or this is a point to celebrate or a point of success. And we don't want to hear like the right answer, because there isn't one.
I feel I've grown in this project because when I was in 6th grade, I was kind of missing the sustainability aspect of the sustainability skill. I thought if you crammed all your work into the last day and you still completed it, that was managing effectively. But I didn't realize that you needed to be sustainable, because if you did that, the next day you'd be really tired and you start getting in the cycle, which is not healthy for your mental health, and it won't help your academic cycle.
The most obvious times are when students actually talk about counter examples. So they're encouraged to use examples. They don't have to talk about examples that went beautifully and like, this is a time when I was perfect at collaboration. We actually love when they talk about the time when they weren't, because as we all know, just as humans, like if you can tell me what went wrong and why it went wrong, you can even tell me, I actually still don't know how to do this right, but I know what I need to do. That's a common thing we hear, is like, I'm still a procrastinator and I still can't really manage my time effectively, but I know that if I did use my planner more or my calendar more, or if I took a project and I broke it down into steps, I know I could do it, I'm not there yet.
What are we learning about your needs in order to manage effectively in your life in general?
I think, okay, the biggest thing is sleep. I'm gonna be like functioning terribly if I don't sleep. And I know that, you know, it's hard when you're in school or work or anywhere because you want to get things done, so you kind of like put that off. But I think just being able to kind of mature more with my 13-year-old, soon 14-year-old self, and realize that, okay, I need sleep, I can't put it off. That's like how I manage effectively now.
The distinction is really important for students to recognize of what is within my control and what can I keep working on, and what is actually a barrier that my surroundings need to change. Like for students with learning differences, it's important that they don't feel like, come on, it's just you just have to work harder. So that's a really cool part of when we hear students in their defense explain something they might have learned about their learning and how they're going to advocate for what structures and supports they need moving forward, because I do think that's part of growth mindset, is recognizing like, this is hard for me because I have a disability and I have the right to have the accommodations that will help me learn from these mistakes. So it's not, it's the students recognizing what's, where is it their chance to grow as a human, and where is it also their chance to advocate for supports that they might need moving forward.
I learn best in environments where I feel supported and on track. Check-ins are very valuable to me, because it's helpful for the teacher to know if I'm on par or if I'm not. This coincides with student support as well. I also really appreciate interactive learning because I'm able to learn not by listening, but by doing. Lastly, the implementation of projects into the curriculum is very important to me as well, because I can take everything I've learned and pull it into a project.
Defense is entirely about reflection. Like the whole portfolio defense process, we are basically assessing the quality of their reflections. We're not assessing the quality of the projects that they did. We're not even assessing their understanding of the sustainability skill. We're assessing their ability to reflect on their understanding and to select evidence that shows that. So reflection is everything. I mean, learning comes through reflection. So much of schools is designed around someone else telling you whether you got something, but what matters is whether I know that I got something, right? It's how we build confidence, it's how we operate in the world. Is I could know all the things. Frankly, I spent the first 20, 25 years of my life knowing a whole lot of stuff, but not having the confidence that I knew it or that I could do something with it. And it's the process of reflection that gives you the ownership of what you know and what you're able to do. Otherwise, you're doing something for someone else, and that's, a grade that a teacher's going to give me. No, reflection is about what I know and what I value.
It's a real authentic assessment of learning, because it's not just your teacher that's assessing you, right? It's all of these people that have a vested interest in you and a vested interest in Malama Honua. And so once they pass, which they will always pass, because failure is not an option. So when you don't pass, it's actually not a failure. You don't fail, it's a resubmit, because the panel believes that you can do better. And so maybe you just need more practice. And so what we find actually is with the defenses, when they have to resubmit, they know, students know when they're at their best and when they maybe could have given a little bit more. And so what we find is the resubmits are just amazing. They're probably far more powerful than, definitely far better than what they had given us the first round, but also it really is this belief that, we believe in you and we know that you can do and be better. What we find is that it actually gives them that confidence that they've overcome something so challenging, and really expressing, not only is it a challenge, but it's expressing what they believe in and their values and beliefs. And it's really truly an opportunity for them to practice, because what we need them to be are leaders who are unafraid, that are unafraid to speak their mind, that they can get up in front of any audience now and share what they believe in. They know how to prepare for it. They know that it's hard, that people are going to ask you some really tough questions, but you have to be able to be confident in who you are in order to share your beliefs. You need to have evidence, you need to be makakao, you need to be prepared in order to be able to share your learning, and that don't be afraid to stand up and speak what you know is your truth and that what is right. That process is one that is very, very rigorous, but they come out so much stronger for it, and able to speak their mind and share their ideas, and just their confidence that, if I can get through defense, I can do anything, and I'm going to be okay. So I think that's the difference between a multiple choice standardized test and something that's accountable and something that you're going to live with for the rest of your life, skills that you need.
This is something that I've worked for months on, and it's kind of it's showcasing all the aspects of my 3 years here. So I think that this is my best work because it's my chance to prove, like Scott